So today we're going to be creating the pricing section of our website. So before we start, I'm just going to give ourselves a bit more space here. Then before we actually start creating the pricing containers, we're going to give ourselves the headline for the section, that is. So I'm just going to say choose from our prices. Then we can increase the size of this around 64 pixels, and I'm just going to change this to BBUS. And I'm just going to increase this a bit more even, maybe 96. Okay, that looks nice. Now, throughout the website, we have been using this grid where we have a two-column approach. But since the pricing section doesn't really work with the two-column approach, I'm going to decide to change it. I'm going to decide to use a central aligned layout. This is fine to do as long as you keep the design principles intact. So sometimes you can break your design layouts. So here, I'm just going to make this more interesting by just outlining this through our orange color, which is our primary brand color. Okay, since we have this now, we can now follow along with the second part. So I don't want to have one pricing section. I want there to be three. So the pricing section might differ based on what kind of pricing we are actually talking about. So there could be a pricing for the individual if someone alone is using it, for a school, since maybe schools want physical uh, exercise and stuff like that in their curriculum, and there will be one for medical centers. So how are we going to create this? Very simply, I'm going to create three pill containers. The one would be for individuals. So I'm just going to change this to enter, which is our secondary body font. Then I'm going to make this around 16 pixels, keeping it regular. And this will be price category. So then I'm just going to give ourselves 16 by 16 padding with no gap, since there won't be any additional elements. I'm just going to give ourselves a white fill, then a black stroke, and a 6 pixel corner radius. I'm doing 6 pixels because I'm just going to give it an external container, so that will be 8 pixels. So the inner container should be less than the outer container, and you will see that more evidently in a minute. So after this, we want to go and create two more. One is for schools. One is for schools, and the other one is for medical centers. Okay, so this is sort of tabs. Okay, so a tab is, you're familiar with it. Even here in Figma, there is tabs in Chrome. In any modern web browser, there are tabs, and this will be three tabs to see three different sort of pricings. Okay, I'm just going to decrease the size between them to be 16 pixels. Then I'm going to give this frame a name of tabs. I'm going to give it the 16 by 16 maybe, and we'll see if that's too much. I'm just going to give it a white fill, give it a stroke, and 8 pixel corner radius, meaning this works nicely with the outer and inner one. Okay, this doesn't look bad. I like this. So I think 16 pixels is a bit too much though. So I'm just going to decrease it to 12 by 12, and this spacing will be 12 too. Okay, that looks nice. One thing I want to do is I want to outline the current selected tab or category. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a different fill, and I'm going to make it a gradient, since we want to follow along with this sort of style which we've been using for buttons. I'm just going to bring that over here too. So from this orange to a lighter one, very simply. Uh, then I'm going to give this one more domination here. Around 50%, I think, was what we have been using. And finally, to attain maximum contrast between the orange and the black, I'm just going to change the black to be white. That will give us a bit more contrast. and this is much more visible and much more interesting. Okay, that's good. Now we have the title, we have the tabs, and I'm gonna group these actually into around a 24 pixel uh, gap, and I'm just gonna call this the header. Now we need to create our actual pricing containers. So we're gonna have three tiers of pricing, one for the basic, one for the premium, and standard, another one for standard. So let's start from the basic package. So first we need to include the price. So I'm just going to say, for example, let's say $19 per month. Uh, so how can we make this more interesting? Now, first thing, I want to use BBus since this is an important part, around 32 pixels. I'm just going to go here, and the per month, I want it to be inner, then around 14 pixels. Now, this will give us a clear separation of visual hierarchy while also making sure that everything is visible. So now here I would like to add an extra thing, which is the package name. So I'm just going to say basic plan here, and I'm just going to keep it the same size as this one here. And in fact, I'm just going to increase the size here just a bit to around 36. Okay, so this is 32, that's 36 by 14. Next, I would like to include a bit more of a description. Uh, we can say, we can write a generic description saying everything you need to ensure a healthy uh, and physically. So let's actually decrease the size of this. Physically fit. Uh, since this is for schools, I'm just going to say physically fit students. Okay, so I'm just going to change this to enter since this is a body text and we don't want to give it as much visual hierarchy as we have been doing previously. Uh, then basically what I want to do here is I want to give this a less subtle color, which I'm going to use the gray 300, which we have been already using. Then I'm just going to change this to 14 instead of 32. And now we have a clear separation of visual hierarchy. That's better. One thing I want to do here is I want to give this a color of our brand color just to make it stand out. The final thing we need to input is our features. Okay, so what features do we have? So one feature would be 3 days a week. Maybe that's like what's offered in the plan. I'm going to give this 14 pixels, enter, and regular. Obviously, we want this to have a higher visual hierarchy than the description text. So what I'm going to decide to do here is I'm going to leave it as it is, as black. So we want to make this more interesting. How can we do that? I'm just going to grab our visual accent here, which we have been using all throughout the website. And that's because of consistency. We want to keep our accent consistent. That will ensure that our design feels much, much better. I'm just going to decrease the size of this to be around 20. Then I'm just going to put it, maybe 16 is better. I'm just going to put it right next to it. I'm just going to group them both, uh, followed up by giving it an 8 pixel gap. 8 pixels probably enough, and central aligning it. So this will be our feature, one feature we are advertising. So our feature. So let's go over and duplicate this a couple of times, around 5 times, to give us different features, a dedicated personal trainer, uh, full workout plan, complete diet plan, and physical therapy. Maybe these are stuff like included in this price point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything here, I'm going to group it and give it a 16 pixels, or maybe 24 or 32, maybe 20. Okay, maybe around, sure, let's decrease this 28 I think works fine here, but I'm gonna stick to 24 here. There is enough space between them, so you want to ensure always enough visual, sorry, white space or negative space. So one thing I want to do here is I want to maybe increase the size of this just a bit to around 36. 36, yeah, 36 works fine here. Maybe even 40. And I want to do the same here. I want to give this around 48 or 40. 40 I think here works fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a bit more interesting. How am I going to do that? Very simply, I'm just going to put it in a frame. I'm going to call it price. I'm going to give it zero gap by and a 16 by 16 padding, followed up by giving it a white fill. And actually, I want the fill to be here. I want it to be the orange color. And I want the black text to be white. I want there to be some corner radius, but I can't really go 8 because I'm planning to put everything here inside of its own container. So I'm just going to go 6 for now, and in the future we'll see how that affects the overall border sizes. So one thing I want to do here is I want to give this more vertical padding, and we'll see how this works. And finally, just add a stroke here, a black stroke, just to keep consistent with everything we have been doing here. Yeah, so next what we want to do is very simply group everything. So just I want to group these two because this is like the headline. Give it some space, around 16 pixels or maybe 12 pixels. Maybe that's a bit too much, maybe just 8. 8 works fine here. Then I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna group everything into a header. Then I'm gonna give this around 16 pixels because there is a bit more separation. I'm just gonna go here, I'm gonna give it a fill container width, and you'll see how that is affecting the overall design. So next up, I wanna give both of these some padding. So the reason I'm doing this, first of all, let's group them. Let's call this features. Let's group these two into a price tier. The reason we want to give these two separate padding is because we want to use inside borders, and you'll see what that means. First, there will not be any gaps in between, but the gaps will be the paddings themselves. I'm just going to give horizontal paddings of 16 pixels by 16 pixels, then follow that by around 32 by 32, uh, and I think that works. So I'm just going to go over, and from the outside I'm just going to give it an 8 pixel corner radius and a black stroke. Now you see that the corner radius, how it works with this part here, the overall design. So what we want to do here is we want to actually give it separate top and bottom corners. So what we want to do here is we want to go here, and since this is connected to the top part of the card, I'm just going to give it 16 pixel to match the top padding with the left paddings. Then I'm going to give this a stroke, and the stroke will be at the bottom. Here you can see that's the separation, why we needed to give these two separate padding, since if we gave the padding here like 12 pixels, you can see that the borders don't go the full way. Next, we want to go here. We want to go to the bottom and go 16 pixels. Uh, yeah, that works. So one last thing, a thing I forgot actually, is we need a call to action. And very simply, we can use this call to action provided to us here. Uh, Okay, we can just copy this primary call to action. We can paste it here, rename it to CTA. We want this to fill the container. And yeah, okay, so to make our lives easier, I'm going to copy the container from here. Control Shift R to replace it, central align it, and make this fill the container. Okay, so then I want to go over to the container and give it 16 by 16 padding and 16 by 16 horizontal vertical padding too. Yeah, so here what we want to do if we are doing that, we don't want to give it any bottom padding since that will be handled by the button. That's almost done. We want to give ourselves a bit more space here. And finally, we want to give ourselves a background of white. Now this is looking pretty nice. Uh, so let's just make this bit bigger. Okay, this will be our price tier. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna decide to make 3 price tiers. Okay, let's just group all of these. Shift A to put them in an auto layout. Price tiers with a ruler. So following that, central alignment, obviously, 24 pixel gap in between them, and we are almost finished. So something you might notice in like in websites in general is they would emphasize one tier different from the other. That tier might be the premium tier in which they want people to give more attention to that instead of the other tiers. So we're gonna do this here. The central would be the premium tier, premium plan. Okay, then obviously this would have like more of price, so 29 maybe. Then what we'll do here is we're gonna change the color to emphasize like how this tier is different. So let's change the colors. We're gonna change the white to be orange. We're gonna change the orange to be the white first of all. Very simple. We're gonna change the gray here to be the orange 900. Also we want to change the black to be the white here too, both ways. The black should be the white. Uh, One next, we want the stroke to stay black since it's connected to the outside and not the inside. And all that's left to change is the actual button here, in which we're just gonna make the linear gradient into a solid white color, and the orange would be black. Okay, that's nice. So one thing you can see is our accents are not actually visible here. So I'm just going to select all of them and change that. I'm going to change this to be the white color, and that already just fixes it on the point. So, but I'm going to decide to make this white just to make it more consistent. So like this is our icons. Okay, that's nice. You can see a clear visual hierarchy difference. Since the orange is more vibrant and more visible, it will stand out in relation to the other tiers, making the user more inclined to subscribe to the premium plan rather than the rest. We're going to finish off here by just grouping everything. Since there's a header here, we're going to group the header with the price tiers, and this section will be called the pricing. Okay, the pricing will have around, I think it was 64 pixel gap, or let's reduce it actually. Let's go 20, 32, 20, okay, here it was, I believe 24, 32 here works great. One final thing is I would like to add some discount here. So they're very simple. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say add 25% off. Okay, so this is like it indicates that the price you see here is 25% off of the original. So what we'll do here is we're going to create a discount fill container. Uh, just give it 16 by 16 padding, zero gap. We won't change the fonts. The font will stay at 14. Since this is not some high visual hierarchy element, I'm just going to give it a black stroke, 8 pixel corner radius. I'm just going to give it a fill here. The fill should be white, but it should be only 1% since we're going to be using some sort of glassmorphic effects. So background blur will be the effect, and I'm gonna go for 64 pixels. Now you can see when we pull it here, let's put it here, then let's give it ignored auto layout positioning. So you can see a difference in, okay, we can take the discount out of the header and still keep, actually let's give it, okay, here. I'm just going to rotate it a bit, and you can see some cool glassmorphic effects. And that's it. Just let's position this correctly here. 96 pixels as we have been doing. Let's reduce the size and we are done. This is our pricing section. I really hope you enjoyed, you learned from today's video. Thanks for watching. As always, if you want to improve as fast as possible in your UI UX design and become maybe a freelancer, work in a big institution as a UI UX designer, I'm offering a full mentorship until you become a successful freelancer. So you can just DM me on my X. I left my handle was in the comments down below and in the description. Also, feel free to just grab this file and just practice on it, duplicate and like change stuff and learn from it. Uh, okay, check out the membership, sorry, the mentorship. Yeah, and thanks. Really hope you enjoyed. Until next time, goodbye.